Welcome to this edition of Diligence Inside America's Boardrooms. I'm TK Kerstetter, and I'll be your host for today's show. Today, we're going to be talking about understanding diverse board member recruitment. And joining me is Eddie Ramos, who's an independent director for Optimum Mutual Funds. Welcome to the show, Eddie.
Thank you very much, TK. Thank you for allowing this opportunity.
So the first thing I want to touch on is, there's a lot of organizations that work to prepare diverse candidates for board service. Certainly, there's a lot of women organizations. I want to focus sort of on the diverse candidate of color, if we could. And there's organizations like for Latinos like the LCDA, for African Americans like the ELC, for Asians like Ascent, that have programs that prepare candidates for service. Now, you're certainly familiar with the Latino Corporate Directors Association, the LCDA. So talk a little bit about what programs they provide to prepare diverse candidates for board service.
Yeah, thank you for that question, TK. I think it's very important to really recognize quite a number of things that these organizations bring to the table. First of all, there's an extraordinary networking opportunity, right? Clearly, these organizations will provide you with access to the decision makers with regard to who are going to want to be the directors on these boards. You're also, in a sense, really meeting a lot of professionals as well who are working at many of these organizations and are working, like I say, on the marble floors, making decisions at their organizations, not on the carpeted floors. And these are the kinds of executives at the C level that you want to be able to get to know in terms of providing future opportunities on their specific boards as well. And gaining their perspective as well. I mean, that's what networking truly is all about, right? It's not only in terms of gaining access to some of the potential opportunities that are available to you, but also you yourself, right? Being able to provide that two-way avenue in terms of providing opportunities for other people too. So the networking is something that's very, very important. And it's not only networking to corporate executives, but it's also some of the executive search firms as well, and organizations such as Diligent too. So that's really maybe the most important aspect in terms of what these organizations bring. Attending these events, clearly, in many cases, it's sort of like joining a reunion, if you will. These are people who I've known throughout the year. Being a Latino executive myself, I have seen or read about a lot of these specific individuals. Some of them are legendary, and I know I stand upon their shoulders. So really getting the opportunity as well from a personal level to meet people like that is extraordinary. And then the training that comes along with it too. As we all know, the decisions that corporate America has to make nowadays are much more complex than they've ever been. And you need to be multi-layered decisions and have multi perspectives as well. So as a result, it's very important to make sure we provide the diversity on the board, embrace the diversity as well, and obviously make sure that people are equitably involved in the decision-making process. So that's really the two most important things that they bring to the table, is really that networking opportunity, and again, the training that comes along with it.
Yeah, I think that's very helpful for people to understand. But let's look at the candidate themselves. This isn't everybody's excited to get their first invitation, if you will, to serve on the board or be part of an interview process. But there's due diligence that needs to be done on the candidate's part. Talk a little bit about the thought process that somebody should go through, before they automatically accept that board invitation, without, again, giving some thought to it.
Yeah, it's not something to be taken lightly. And really, it starts with a self-introspective process, right? So you have to kind of realize that as achievement-oriented people who aspire to, executive positions and are achievement-oriented people, we at some point in our lives will likely go from having one full-time position to having a portfolio of directorships. And it's something that I've embarked upon, and I had to make that honest, again, self-introspection and conversation with my family, right, with regard to what it is that we want to do going forward. How do we want to impact the world too? I mean, when you have one full-time position, it's very difficult to go after all the different things that you want to go after. So you really want to make sure that you're a part of making sure that you're making a decision that's very comfortable for yourself and your family and your career going forward. And then once you've done that, I think it's very important to really be aware of what it is that you want to accomplish going forward. I mean, why is it that you want to be on a board? There are thousands of organizations for which you could potentially be on their board, but you got to make sure that what your interests are and your intentionality is something that very much lines up with the organization that you wind up joining. I want to join organizations that are very much, people that I'm going to be inspired by, organizations that are really making a difference going forward. Uh, Modern day capitalism has really changed, right? From being sort of focused on what was best for shareholders to now what's best for multiple stakeholders going forward. So as a result, those decisions really need to provide a lot more perspective to the table. Those decisions obviously are going to go in different directions for different organizations, and I want to make sure that I'm aligning myself and my interests, and again, and what my intentionality is with organizations that are moving in a similar direction. So that's where you have to be, to some extent, picky with regard to what it is that you wind up doing next. Um, and then, I would say finally, if you want to be a good board member, I mean, you have to obviously start with the familiar, right? So, know what it is that you do best, know where you're likely going to add the best value to an organization, and then look for those specific organizations where you can think you can make a real true difference. But while you're starting with the familiar, you should always be basking in the unknown as well, because there are so many things going on in the world that are new challenges being provided to directors every day. So you have to make sure that you're on top of the things that are evolving as well, and your knowledge will change, will really shipshape going forward with regard to all the different issues that are going to be placed on the table today and the ones that will be placed on the table tomorrow.
So is it fair, Eddie, and this is certainly a suggestion that I would make, if when somebody's going through the interview process, to equally, I mean, I expect them to ask me what my skill sets are and what I bring to the table, but I think it's fair for the candidate to ask the CEO or the chairman or whoever they're interviewing with, what are your expectations of me as far as being a board member? I think that's a very fair question for people to ask as well.
Yeah, like I mentioned, there has to be an alignment there, right? So, I mean, some organizations really are very adept at sort of figuring out, um, again, from a self-introspective standpoint, they're really adept at figuring out, okay, where is it that we've had some failures in the past? Where is it that perhaps we've lacked perspective on certain issues in the past? What is it in terms of the decisions that we've made, and what could we have done better, right? So I think the best organizations really are looking for people that can be additive to what it is that they already have at the table. Um, and honestly, if they've got a great director like a John Smith, the last thing they should be looking for going forward is yet another John Smith, right? I mean, they should be looking for someone else, because you want to make sure that there's diverse perspectives there at the table. So, as a candidate, when I look at opportunities like that, I clearly, every opportunity in life allows you the opportunity to potentially learn going forward, right? But you got to make sure that you feel you will make the organization better. So it's up to you, the candidate, to sort of figure out what's going on within this organization. Where do I fit? Where can I provide the best perspective at the table here? And if this is something where you really feel you'll be able to make a difference, and you will, to some extent, change minds, right? Because to some extent, many of the boards you will join will have some people who are very senior on the board, and they've been there maybe 15, 20 years, and perhaps they need a fresh perspective. So you go in there in a very collegial and a diplomatic way, and being able to figure out where it is that you fit. And over the course of time, as you add value, you will change minds.
So I have a tough question for you, relative to maybe your own experiences. When you, if you had the opportunity to go on a board and you were the only, say, person of color, and you find yourself as what some label as the token, to meet a requirement or doing, something like that, that raises a question about your invite. Do you look at that as a red flag, or do you look at that as an opportunity that this is my chance to be a leader, for other diverse people that follow me and, feel, happy about the opportunity?
Well, certainly as a Latino executive, TK, I throughout the course of my entire life, right, starting as early as 15 years old when I was being considered for an elite high school, I've always felt like I was going to be the only one in the room. And perhaps I was being recruited um, to check a box, let's say, right? That has happened frequently throughout the course of my career. And throughout the course of my life, even before I embarked into my college enrollment. So one of the things that my parents really taught me, it's about finding that crack, if you will, where you can enter the door. My mom specifically made it very clear that if you're not being allowed access to the elevator to the top, there's always a set of stairs that you can take. And that's the way it is for quite a number of folks, executives that are from underrepresented groups. So, yes, you will always find opportunities that are going to be presented to you that you can take advantage of. And I certainly have done that throughout the course of my career. So, as I've spoken to the people who are embarking on this director search with me and people that have come before me as well, we pretty much all feel that it's about, you know, looking for those cracks. And if those cracks are provided, then you go in there and you bust it wide open, right? Again, every opportunity is going to allow you this opportunity to learn. Um, if you really feel you will make the organization better and you'll be able to change minds, then yes, by all means, you go in there and to some extent you prove them wrong if you have to, right? But I think, the majority of people who are being considered today, without a doubt, the qualifications are there, the certifications are there, the credentials are there. Some people have gone to some of the best, schools as well. So it's not about sort of all those specific accomplishments being brought to the table and say, hey, now I qualify. It's about building those accomplishments and being treated like everyone else, because these organizations need to be more diverse. Specifically for Latinos, we represent now 20% of the population, but only 4% of corporate board positions. So that huge disparity, if you will, is larger than any other underrepresented group in America right now.
Well, Eddie, you certainly have the right attitude, and I think the perspectives that you offered should be helpful to companies that are certainly looking for diverse candidates. And I must say, the work that I know that there's a great uphill battle, but the work that the LCDA has done has been terrific. Esther and her team have done a very good job, and I hope that that will continue. And I wanted to thank you again for taking the time, joining us, and sort of giving us a sort of an insider's look at diverse recruitment. So thanks for joining us, Eddie.
And thank you for this opportunity, TK. I certainly appreciate it. And I look forward to hearing more about this specific topic and conversation on your show.
And that will conclude this edition of Inside America's Boardrooms. We hope you enjoyed the show. We'll be back again next week when we take another look at a critical topic that'll help you be a better board member or committee member. So we'll see you then.